Hi, everyone. Today is Monday, October 12th, and welcome to the Morning Brief. This is the channel to get your second stimulus and pandemic news update in a clear and concise summary. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, like, and the bell button. It really helps to grow the channel. In stimulus news, yesterday, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows drafted a letter to the members of the House and State addressing the political deadlock in trying to pass additional legislation for stimulus and the inability for Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats to compromise on further stimulus. This letter was released yesterday on the U.S. Department of the Treasury website, and it was addressed letter from Secretary Steven Mnuchin and to the members of the House and the Senate. This letter response is clearly political signaling by Mnuchin and Meadows to put the political blame back on Pelosi and the House by accusing the House of passing two separate partisan bills instead of compromising with Republicans on bipartisan legislation like they had done in the past. Let's analyze the letter more that was released by the U.S. Department of the Treasury website by Mnuchin and Meadows. Okay, if we look at the letter, it starts off to members of the House and Senate. When COVID-19 forced President Trump to shut down the economy, we worked very hard and quickly with the Senate and the House to pass unprecedented legislation to help the economy. We are very proud that party politics was put aside and that the Senate passed two important bills, 96-0 and 100-0. So I just quoted the first paragraph in the letter. So they're really stressing on how they were able to kind of unify both the Senate and the House in passing the first HEROES Act. So then the second paragraph, they say, over the past few months, we have tried to work on a bipartisan basis to pass additional legislation. Our focus has been on passing legislation to provide funds for testing, vaccines, distribution, and medical care. We have also focused on getting money for schools for children. There has been focus on small business, hotels, restaurants, airlines, and so forth. So they really try to highlight what we've been discussing in the previous videos, that they're very close to a deal. Like from Friday, we knew that the Republicans went up to 1.8 trillion and Pelosi was around 2.2 trillion. So we know that there was only about 400 billion in between the two numbers. And they had made a lot of grounds in terms of PPE, state and local funding, schools, and vaccine research. And as Pelosi's letter yesterday stated, a lot of it depended on the language. So let's look at the letter more in detail. So I think this is the really important parts of the letter. He says, we have offered many different proposals in an effort to pass bipartisan legislation. We have both been able to speak to members of both parties as well as bipartisan groups. The president is available to meet as well. The House has passed two separate partisan bills instead of compromising with us on bipartisan legislation like we have done in the past. So very important sentence. So he puts the blame back on Pelosi and the Democrats for not meeting in the middle or working with the Republicans. We will continue to try to work with Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer. So they blatantly kind of single them out. It is not just about the top line number, but also about legislation that can be passed by both the House and Senate and signed into law by President Trump and the American people. Now is the time for us to come together and immediately vote on a bill that allows us to spend the unused Paycheck Protection Program funds while we continue to work towards a comprehensive package. Sincerely, Steven Mnuchin and Mark Meadows. So you can see that this letter is really a response to Pelosi's letter yesterday, slamming, the Republican release, even going up to 1.9 trillion, but slamming it because of the language and the specifics that were not clear, Pelosi alleges. So, Pelosi has repeatedly argued that the actual legislative language and where that language directs the funds has become the most critical aspect of any deal. Pelosi has particularly pushed for increased funding for states and localities that have a lot of budget shortfalls given the coronavirus pandemic. And this has been a major issue of contention for the Trump administration. So again, just to step back, we see this letter released by Mnuchin and Meadows as a counter to Pelosi's letter yesterday and putting the blame back on each other. So, it's pretty interesting. On Friday, the Republicans went up to 1.9 trillion and, it looked like we were really close, 300, 400 billion. And on the weekend, these letters went back and forth. So not much accomplished, but both sides saying, hey, it's not our fault. We got to look at the language, and they're both kind of blaming each other. But this letter is very direct by Mnuchin and Meadows, basically saying that, Pelosi and Schumer and the Democrats, you guys are to blame for not meeting us, and, passing and using the previous example of the HEROES bill of passing, basically an unanimous 100-0 vote. So we'll keep monitoring this and see what news comes out today. That's it. You're caught up for Monday. Please enjoy your Monday. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.